Daniel Penny showed up for the last day of arguments in his case, and outside, protesters were a reminder of why this case is so controversial. It involves the death of Jordan Neely, the 30-year-old homeless man and occasional Michael Jackson impersonator who died after being held down for at least 6 minutes by Daniel Penny on a subway train on May 1st of last year. It happened after Neely had entered the subway car, yelling at and physically threatening passengers, according to witnesses. You're looking at some of the same evidence prosecutors showed the jury in their closing arguments on Tuesday. It was part of the contrasts they want jurors to draw. They include whether Daniel Penny used ordinary physical force to hold down Neely or deadly physical force, and whether Jordan Neely died from asphyxiation or from complications from the sickle cell anemia condition and illicit drug use he was shown to have. That's a contrast between testimony from the defense's star witness, forensic scientist Dr. Satish Chandru, who said Neely's medical condition led to his death, but the prosecution's star witness, city medical examiner Dr. Cynthia Harris, did Neely's autopsy and said the chokehold killed him.
I believe in the prosecution. I've believed in them ever since we've been talking, ever since the beginning of this heinous act.
Neely's family said they're confident in the case's outcome.
I believe in the jury. I believe that positive energy is always going to override negative energy.
So breaking news just into our newsroom minutes ago. Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Chronister announced he is withdrawing from consideration for a position in the Trump administration. Over the weekend, the president-elect tapped Chronister to head the Drug Enforcement Administration. In a post on X, the sheriff said, while this is the honor of a lifetime, quote, there is more work to be done for the citizens of Hillsborough County and a lot of initiatives I am committed to fulfilling. No word yet on who might be nominated for that DEA position.
As the war in Sudan rages on, humanitarian conditions are growing increasingly desperate. Many Sudanese refugees have fled to neighbouring Chad. Though they want to return home, they're not sure when they will be able to. In Sudan, there is a problem. There is no security, there is no stability. We came here as refugees to Chad, and we want to return to our country, check our homes, and remain there. That's our problem. Without security, it's difficult. We have children. We have a family, and because security is not guaranteed, we will stay here until we return to our country, God willing. Aid groups are worried about a lack of resources.
Yeah, what I worry the most will be lack of funding. If you don't have enough funding, then and have increased inflow of Sudanese population here in Chad, adding a strain to the situation here in Chad as well itself, that can lead to anger.
Some fear the situation won't improve anytime soon.
We know here the population is almost solely reliant on food aid, and this is not something that is really sustainable. As the conflict is not improving on the other side and actually even worsening as we speak, we foresee that sadly people will remain here for quite a while.
Some 700,000 residents in Sudan have fled to Chad since the conflict broke out.
Very common to find a lot of mines in these areas. Obviously a concern to have these mine subsidence issues.
We're following breaking news right now. A rescue mission underway. A grandmother who hasn't been seen in 24 hours is believed to have fallen into a sinkhole. Police found Elizabeth Pollard's 5-year-old granddaughter in a car not far from that sinkhole. So all day, crews have been working at that site. Thank you for joining us at 5. I'm Ken Rice.
And I'm Megan Schiller, in tonight for Christine Sorensen. Now, this is all happening right behind Monday's restaurant in Unity Township, Westmoreland County. And that is where we find KDKA's Chris DeRose. Chris?
Megan, Ken, good evening. Yeah, we are right beside Monday's restaurant in their parking lot. In fact, because just behind us and just behind the restaurant around 5 p.m. yesterday, Elizabeth Pollard allegedly fell down a 30-foot sinkhole into an abandoned mine below. Here's the scene. Take a look. I'll step out of the way. Crews are currently working here, and they have been working for hours to widen that sinkhole and try and find Pollard. Now, the state police were first alerted that Pollard had gone missing late last night after her and her granddaughter went looking for Pollard's missing cat. Troopers found Pollard's 5-year-old granddaughter overnight in Pollard's car. She was unharmed, but the sinkhole had opened near where the car was parked. Now, multiple fire crews showed up to search for Pollard, as well as mining experts and excavation experts. And while crews are widening the hole currently, they've been putting cameras and mics down there to try and see or hear Pollard, but to no avail. However, they say there is reason to be optimistic.
All oxygen levels have been perfect. No carbon monoxide, no CO, no explosive gases, anything. So the atmosphere has been perfect at this point. So we still have some hope that there's a void, and we'll be able to get there with the excavation company.
Now, temperature in the mine is supposedly warmer than the outside air, estimated around this afternoon. The outside air was, in the 30s, and down below it was around 50 degrees. And the family of Pollard, they are asking for privacy right now, and state police and all the first responders here, they say they are going to be here until they find her. For now, reporting in Unity Township, Westmoreland County, Krista Rose, KDKA TV.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta, and some news is just coming in. South Korea has declared an emergency martial law in the country. President Yoon Suk Yeol has accused the opposition of anti-state activities, including sympathizing with North Korea. The president says he intends to rebuild a free and democratic country through the emergency. Now, the president said in a live televised address to the nation just minutes ago, and I'm quoting, "To safeguard a liberal South Korea from the threats posed by North Korea's communist forces and to eliminate anti-state elements, I hereby declare emergency martial law." Now, as I told you, these are developments coming in from South Korea just moments ago. We are yet to hear more details about the story. And clearly, a lot is happening in Seoul.
A war in which mobs backed by the government are attacking, killing Bangladeshi Hindus who are and always have been citizens of the land. A government-sponsored and supported war which has destroyed the harmony of the people and ruined the peace of the land. Nearly 4 months ago, Muhammad Yunus was brought to take over the government in Bangladesh. Hindus, a significant minority in this Muslim-majority country, find themselves hunted, their faith under attack, their voices silenced. Hindu temples have been desecrated, homes reduced to ashes, voices silenced through violence and fear. Temples have been vandalized. We've been telling you about this. Hindu leaders have been imprisoned. An ISKCON monk has been arrested, while a large group of ISKCON monks have been barred from entering India, reportedly without any concrete reason. This is no longer just political unrest. It's an outright civil war waged against a community.
And Congress is back in Washington, and lawmakers have a long to-do list before they adjourn for the year. That includes avoiding a government shutdown.
That's right. And our Washington correspondent Trevor Shirley is in D.C. with more. Trevor?
And Congress only has about 3 weeks before the government runs out of money.
We're at the beginning of what will be a very busy December.
From keeping the government open to funding the military and passing a major agricultural farm bill, Congress has a lot to do and less than 3 weeks to get it all done.
Let's be absolutely clear. December drama is not the way to demonstrate we're serious about our most basic governing responsibilities.
Priority 1 remains funding the government to avoid a shutdown set to happen December 20th.
Both sides are making progress negotiating on a bill that can pass the House and Senate with bipartisan support.
In all likelihood, Congress will pass a short-term continuing resolution, punting a long-term fix to the next Congress in January.
At this late hour, we'll have to act on legislation that comes to us over from the House.
Congress also has to pass the annual National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, to fund the military.
The NDAA has been passed without fail for decades with the cooperation from both sides, and I hope this year is no exception.
And on top of all that, more emergency relief money is still needed for parts of the country hit hard by natural disasters like hurricanes.
We should come together again at the end of the year to get disaster aid done, or we may not be ready to respond the next time Mother Nature wreaks havoc in our communities.
Senate Democrats are also racing to confirm as many federal judges as they can before Republicans retake that chamber in January. Reporting in Washington, I'm Trevor Shirley.
This morning, it's all hands on deck from President-elect Trump's transition team as it works to garner support for his cabinet picks. More of those picks are under scrutiny as of this morning. WCNC Charlotte's Bree Jackson breaks down their fight to get the votes needed to get his cabinet confirmed.
President-elect Trump making another controversial choice for his second administration, selecting Kash Patel for FBI director.
He's got a sketchy commitment to using his authority to pursue what he regards as political enemies, and that includes folks who write bad articles about him in the press, politicians who disagree with the president.
I've known him for a long time. Just stay tuned.
Senators also meeting with Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to senators today.
He's come under fire for a number of issues, ranging from sexual assault allegations, which he denied and was not charged for, although authorities did not say why he was not charged, to a new article by The New Yorker citing a 2015 report written by former employees of a veterans organization Hegseth ran. It alleged he was repeatedly intoxicated to the point of needing to be carried out of the organization's event. The Trump transition team is standing by the pick, and some lawmakers are too.
We need somebody to straighten the military out, to get the woke, the DEI affiliation out, and go from there.
Pam Bondi, Mr. Trump's nominee for U.S. Attorney General, also making the rounds on Capitol Hill Monday.
I congratulate you, and I hope that you feel the honor that you should feel for having this nomination from President Trump.
Should I earn the trust and the nomination from all of the senators, I will do my best every day to work tirelessly for the American people.
President-elect Trump's picks making their case to be confirmed. And President-elect Trump is seeking to force out the current FBI director, Christopher Wray, who Trump tapped to lead the agency back in 2017. Wray has 3 years left on his 10-year term. The FBI reacted in a statement saying Director Wray's focus remains on the men and women of the FBI. In Washington,
ce texte est désormais là. Il est, je crois, désormais temps d'agir pour le mettre en œuvre. Je crois que nous sommes parvenus désormais à un moment de vérité qui met chacun devant ses responsabilités. C'est maintenant à vous, députés, parlementaires de la nation, de décider si notre pays se dote de textes financiers responsables, indispensables et utiles à nos concitoyens, ou alors si nous entrons en territoire inconnu. C'est pourquoi, sur le fondement de l'article 49, alinéa 3 de la Constitution, j'engage la responsabilité du gouvernement, de mon gouvernement, sur l'ensemble du projet de loi de financement de la sécurité sociale pour 2025, et je le fais en appelant à la responsabilité de chacun des représentants de la nation que vous êtes, même si vous devez quitter cet hémicycle, persuadé que notre mission commune, au-delà de nos divergences, est de servir la France et les Français. Désormais, mesdames et messieurs les députés, chacun doit prendre ses responsabilités et je prends les miennes.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Premier ministre.
China has announced a ban on exports to the United States of critical materials, including gallium, germanium, and antimony. These materials, essential for semiconductors, military equipment, and renewable technologies, fall under dual-use items with civilian and defense applications. Beijing says the restrictions, effective immediately, are aimed at safeguarding national security. China's latest move strengthens its existing controls on these minerals, which it began implementing last year. For context, China supplies 48% of the world's antimony and dominates the global supply chain for gallium and germanium. This export ban follows Washington's intensified measures against China's chip-making ambitions. The U.S. recently imposed new restrictions on exports of advanced semiconductors, chip-making tools, and AI-related technology to China, targeting 140 Chinese companies. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo emphasized these curbs aim to limit China's ability to modernize its military through advanced AI applications. Beijing's restrictions, however, also include tighter reviews on graphite exports, further limiting U.S. access to critical technology inputs. Despite the significance of these materials, Chinese customs data show no shipments of gallium or germanium to the U.S. this year through October. Last year, the U.S. ranked as the 4th and 5th largest market for these minerals, respectively. And additionally, China's October exports of antimony products plunged by 97% compared to September after earlier restrictions took effect. The U.S. and China, the world's two largest economies, continue to grapple with escalating trade tensions. As the U.S. transitions to a new administration, the future of this technology-focused rivalry remains uncertain.
الكرام، لا نزال معكم في هذا البث المباشر من الجابر الصباح حفظه الله ورعاه. وفي هذه اللحظات مهما وسندا قويا لدعم مسيرة التعاون المشترك.
بضرورة الالتزام بالقانون الدولي وسيادة الدولة الوطنية وحماية حفظه الله ورعاه في عناق أخوي عزيز يعكس متانة العلاقات
الخليجي، منظومة راسخة قادرة على في شؤونها الداخلية ورفض العنف بكافة أشكاله. المراقبون إلى القمة هذه المرة بأنها
اقتصادية، إدراكا منها بأن مصلحة الجانبين ويعزز وحدة وتماسك البيت الخليجي والعربي بصفة
preparing to send Ukraine an additional $725 million in military assistance, and that includes counter-drone systems and munitions for its high-mobility artillery rocket system, which could indicate more of the longer-range missiles are headed to the battlefield. Ukraine has been pressing for more of those weapons to strike additional targets inside of Russia. The package announced today also includes more of the anti-personnel landmines that Ukraine is counting on to slow Russian and North Korean ground forces in the Kursk region.
The United Nations is being presented with a new trove of evidence that Russia stole Ukrainian children, forcing them to take Russian identities after a team at Yale University hacked into Russian adoption databases.
Yale researchers secretly obtained access to Russian adoption databases, finding within them what they say are 148 Ukrainian children. It's part of the most detailed and extensive evidence presented to date of Russian war crimes and crimes against humanity. The new report uses open source intelligence and satellite images to identify Russian government aircraft allegedly used to take away Ukrainian orphans from Russian-occupied areas of eastern Ukraine.
The surveillance camera.
The evidence, collected by Yale's Humanitarian Research Lab, builds upon methods and discoveries shown previously to Scripps News.
I've been a war crimes investigator for almost a quarter century. This is really one of the first times that the primary victim population I'm dealing with is alive. And they're not only alive, they're kids.
Russia's president, Vladimir Putin, ordered this program, the report alleges, and it traces how it was carried out by officials at the highest levels of Russia's federal government. Once children are adopted by Russians, they become far more difficult to track. The report tracked 314 Ukrainian children, at least 67 of them now naturalized as Russian citizens. But it's believed that there could be thousands more.
On Wednesday, Ukrainian representatives and Yale investigators will present their findings to a special meeting of the UN Security Council, of which Russia is a veto-holding member. Jason Bellini, Scripps News, Washington.
Meanwhile, the Israeli military is expanding its presence in central Gaza. It has been fortifying military bases and demolishing Palestinian buildings, a move that suggests that it may be preparing to exert long-term control over that area. In fact, reports suggest the Israeli forces have occupied a 4-mile road known as the Netzarim Corridor. Control of the corridor, which cuts across Gaza from the Israeli border to the Mediterranean Sea has given Israel the ability to regulate travel across the length of the enclave, keeping hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians in the south. Reports indicate this has slowly grown into an 18-square-mile block of territory controlled by Israeli forces. Over the past 3 months, soldiers have demolished more than 600 buildings around the road in an apparent attempt to create a buffer zone. They have also rapidly expanded a network of outposts equipped with communications towers and defensive fortifications. The build-up suggests a shift for Israel, which had largely avoided holding Gazan territory, creating a vacuum that has allowed Hamas to reassert control in some parts of Gaza. The IDF maintains that the expansion is only for operational reasons. Reports indicate the Israeli military has built at least 19 large bases throughout the area and dozens of small ones over the last 3 months. The expansion has also raised speculation about Israel's plans for Gaza's future. Analysts say the extent of the fortifications suggest Israel is at the very least preparing for a protracted battle in Gaza. Netanyahu toured the Netzarim corridor in a relatively rare visit to the Gaza Strip last month. Remember, the Biden administration has opposed long-term Israeli control in Gaza, which it hopes will become part of a future Palestinian state. President-elect Donald Trump has called on Israel to finish up the war without stipulating what terms he might deem acceptable for a post-war Gaza.
The presence of a Russian attack submarine in Philippines' exclusive economic zone in the South China Sea has evoked a reaction from President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Philippine Navy spokesperson Roy Vincent Trinidad said a Russian Kilo-class submarine was sighted 80 nautical miles off the western province of Mindoro on 28th of November. Now, he added that the country's Navy frigate, Jose Rizal, established radio contact with the Russian submarine, which confirmed its identity as UFA-490 and its intent. Trinidad said the Russian vessel stated it was awaiting improved weather conditions before proceeding to Vladivostok in Russia. Now, that's concerning, said President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. China and Russia declared a no-limits partnership when Russian President Vladimir Putin visited Beijing in 2022, just days before Moscow launched its invasion of Ukraine. The two countries carried out live-fire naval exercises in the South China Sea in July. Tensions between Manila, a U.S. treaty ally, and Beijing have escalated over the past year due to overlapping claims in the South China Sea. A 2016 arbitral tribunal ruled China's historical claims to the disputed waterway, which had no basis, a decision Beijing rejects.
And our top focus and we're on right now. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has warned that there would be hell to pay in West Asia if hostages held in the Gaza Strip were not released prior to his inauguration in January. A total of 251 people were taken hostage in Hamas's attack on Israel on the 7th of October 2023. 422 days on, there are still 101 in captivity in Gaza, of which half are reportedly alive. According to Israeli intelligence, this includes 4 American hostages. In his most explicit message to those who he referred to as the perpetrators of atrocities against humanity, Trump said that they will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in the history of the United States of America. Meanwhile, U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller announced that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will meet Israeli Minister of Strategic Affairs Ron Dermers today.
He is going to continue to express the position of the United States that we need to get a ceasefire, we need to see the hostages released, we need to implement plans for the day after that would allow or would establish governance, security, and reconstruction inside Gaza, and that ought to be an urgent priority, not just for the United States, not just for other countries in the region, but for Israel as well.
A Hamas delegation met with the head of the Egyptian General Intelligence, Major General Hassan Rashad, and also a number of other Egyptian intelligence officials in a bid to discuss ways to stop the war and aggression and also bring in aid and open the Rafah crossing. Also, The Hamas delegation also met with the leaders of the rival group Fatah in Egypt for talks, seeking to bring post-war Gaza under the full control of the Palestinian Authority. Now, Gaza has been under the authority of Hamas since it used force to take the territory in 2007 from the Fatah movement, which currently rules over parts of the occupied West Bank. Now, Egypt's Minister of Foreign Affairs said that the Palestinian Authority is to be fully enabled to take on matters in clear and complete manner after the end of the Israeli occupation. Meanwhile, the United Nations chief Antonio Guterres urged the international community to build a foundation for sustainable peace in Gaza. Guterres said that the situation in the war-torn Gaza was appalling and apocalyptic. He warned that the conditions faced by Palestinians in the territory may amount to the gravest international crimes.
He has also issued a warning to Hamas on his social media sites. He's now demanding the release of Israeli hostages still being held in Gaza. The president-elect wants them freed before he takes office come January. And parts of the eastern U.S. are bracing for more snow and bitter temperatures later this week. Lake effect snow blowing in off the Great Lakes has already buried parts of Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. Some areas could pick up